All right, super excited today to be with Liliana Ballge with McKinnies Realty. And thank you, Liliana, for joining us here today.
Thank you, Dennis, so much for this opportunity. Humbled, but yet excited.
No, I love the chance to talk with producers, hear what they're doing. I know that I think it's the Jim Rohn quote that success leaves clues. So it's always fun to hear what other people are doing and how they are succeeding in the business. And as we get started, let's talk a little bit about how did you get into the business?
I'm a person of faith, and so I don't believe in coincidences. I do believe that things are ordered. I was a stay-at-home mom after COVID for about a year, and I had driven past a McKinnies Realty office and had called the office saying, "Hey, are you hiring?" They were like, "No, it's just a landing space." And I'm like, "Okay." Well, a year later, then they called me and they're like, "Hey, we're actually looking to hire to staff that. Are you interested?" And I said, "Absolutely." So I started as an outreach coordinator for the Homes for Heroes program. And it's a program where first responders, teachers, as well as educators and healthcare workers are able to get some money back in the home buying or selling process. What started as a relocation program, we really have kind of coupled it with our service to our community. And so I was doing outreach, and then I started seeing what realtors are doing. I always thought it was just more of a salesy job, but I was like, no, there's so many different avenues that I had one coworker, he was primarily working with investors. I had another coworker, she's called the River Lady. So she was primarily working with homes on the river. I had another coworker kind of really focused first time home buyers. And I love the diversity of kind of the different niches that you could get into. So I started feeling God just put it on my heart, I want you to do this. And I was like, Lord, like I'm in my 40s. I don't know about starting over. And it was a little bit intimidating, the 90-hour coursework. You have to pass that. And then afterwards, you have to pass this national state test. And everybody tells you you don't pass it the first time. Long story short, I was like, okay, Lord, if you get me through that process, then I know it's your will. So I moved forward. I did pass it. And thankfully, right away from our faith community and friends, they started trusting me in both the selling and the buying process. So that was exciting.
Nice, nice. So you transitioned from a stay-at-home mom into doing real estate. And what were you doing before you were a stay-at-home mom?
So I have my undergrad in business and then my master's in education. And what brought me to Goshen, I'm originally from Northwest Indiana. I say city girl. But once again, I say God has a sense of humor because he then took me to Bloomington, which Bloomington kind of felt like a mini city in the country fields. But then afterwards came to Goshen and it's definitely not city, but it's a great family town. And I came here to work at Goshen College for 7 years in admissions and financial aid. Transitioned from there to working into healthcare. I am not a provider. I always told them I'll be your number one employee, maybe not your best patient. And so worked with helping people access healthcare, worked in starting a dental clinic, so a little bit of administration in healthcare. So about 14 years of customer service experience and it's always hindsight. Hindsight's 2020. And I was looking back and I was like, God, I've gone from education to healthcare to now real estate. Like, what's the common link? And it really is taking these complicated processes that I didn't know what I didn't know when I was a first-time home buyer, and then walking alongside people to manageable steps because this is the largest home purchase most of the time of their life. And so the trust that people place in you, yeah, I definitely don't take that for granted.
Yeah, because I was thinking, about the also the common theme of helping people,
Yeah.
and I'm a believer as well. And I know that, God doesn't waste any of the experiences that we have, even though sometimes we think, oh, well, I don't really know why he had me do that when I'm doing this. But then you can see how those things intersect at you know different aspects, and you're like, okay, now again, hindsight, you can look back and see how all of those different streams converge into the river, but you don't always see it, until you get to a certain point.
Absolutely. I think the other piece too is, even being bilingual, I don't take that for granted. I remember growing up and my mom would speak to me in Spanish. I'm like, Mom, we're the United States. Speak to me in English. And she's like, No, no, no. Tienes que hablar español en la casa. You have to speak Spanish at home. And I'm so thankful and I'm so grateful because from education to healthcare to now real estate, it's one thing to speak the language, it's another thing to learn the language of that specific industry. And so I really feel like a bridge builder as well, in being able to educate people in the process, walk people alongside the process. And then at the end, just being a resource. Once you close, it doesn't end and those relationships continue. And so just being a person that, I got this thing in the mail. Is it legit? Is it not legit? And so
Yeah, I love that because I'm, again, you know, being a lender for life, being a realtor for life is more than just a slogan. It's really a mindset, and I want people to call when they get something that they don't understand, because it's all public records. And so, there's no limit to the number of, some of them are legitimate, some of them are scams that people get. I mean, it might be a legitimate thing. It might, you know, the one I think of is, well, get life insurance to cover your house. Like, okay, well, you can, but you could probably get a term policy to cover your house for next to nothing, depending on how old you are, so yeah, so being that resource and then being able to give them good advice even after they close is super important.
realize too, it's people most of the time, the reason why people are moving is that there's a life change happening. And it could be a good life change, such as a new baby, growing family. And then other times it can be a death, a divorce. And so yeah, the selling the home is a piece of the puzzle. And there's so many other pieces that they're trying to navigate. And so holding that with them, understanding that this is just one piece of the bigger puzzle.
Yep, absolutely. Tell me a little bit about the Homes for Heroes program, how that works, and because I know that every time I mention it, your eyes light up with that because you really like that. So tell me more.
Yeah, well, considering I was in education, I was in healthcare and never heard about it, I'm usually passionate about sharing a resource, a free national resource that people don't just know about. It was started after 9/11. There was a realtor that wanted to give back, and one of the ways that she gave back is through financially contributing a portion of her commission back to the seller and or buyer. And so just because people work within, a police officer, healthcare workers, first responders, firefighters, and then veterans, it has expanded also to veterans. If they work, and what I love about the flexibility of the program is the fact that, you don't just have to be the police officer, you could be the 911 communications person that's answering that phone call, that you're part of this process. And so you just have to work within the industry, within education. You can be the custodial staff, you could be the office worker. And it's our way of saying thank you. I know money isn't everything, but I know sometimes in the moving process, $1,000, $500, $2,000 can be helpful. And so we commit a portion of our commission back to the heroes. And then there's also partners, partner lenders, partner inspectors, partner appraisers that they give a discount based on the Homes for Heroes program.
Yeah, and generally, the income that people in, I have family members that, my son is in the army. I've got family members that are police officers and things, and the income that they make does not really compare with the impact that they make in society. And so it is a great. I'm very familiar with the program, and it's a very good way to, to provide some, thank you and some help to people that, you know, and they're not doing it for the money, and they're not doing it for, they're doing it out of a heart of service. But if we can come with a heart of gratitude and service as well, that's always nice.
Absolutely. I also love the fact that, the Homes for Heroes program for us, it's also been an opportunity to serve our community. So sometimes we do events specifically for the police department, specifically for veterans. we've kind of taken it beyond just the us committing the commission. While that's helpful, it's a mindset. I mean, one of the things that really attracted me to McKinnies Realty is the heart for service, as you talked about. Is we are here to serve our clients, to serve also our lenders. Like, we are partners together. We can't make it through the process without a good lender, without a good appraiser, inspector, all the above. And so it really does take a collaborative team to work together in this process.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, absolutely, and yeah, and I think that's something else that you know probably had the thought. At the beginning you said you thought it was more of a sales type job, and then you realize that it is really about serving people, and when you can serve people at a high level, then it's not selling; it's just facilitating what they're trying to do and making it happen in a way that is meaningful to them.
Yeah. Yeah. I have found that communication and patience and follow up, like, when we say the word serve, it encompasses so much. And even in different communities, it's different. Like, we have Amish out here. And so it might require picking up a client. It might require, we want to live within a certain radius. And so listening well, asking good questions. Yeah, there's a lot that goes with serving well.
I love it. Well, what are some goals that you have maybe for this year or the next 3 to 5 years?
Oh, personally, professionally, or all the above?
All of the above.
I think professionally, as much as I want to serve well, I also know my capacity, balancing, yeah, a little one at home, an adult son, even though they're out of the house, you still very much think and care for them. My husband, and then my husband and I are heavily involved in our church community. And so, in terms of business, I know it seems counterintuitive. Everyone's like, I want to grow my business. I honestly want to maintain my business. And the reason is because I want to serve well. I want to serve with excellence. So normally, I mean, some numbers in terms of 2 to 4 families a month is a goal that I have for myself. In this industry, it's very cyclical. You might have some months where you're at 4, you might have some months where you're at 1. And so it just depends. And then, I have a lot of I have some coworkers that are producing like 20. At this season of life, that's not where I'm at, and that I'm okay with that. Um, in terms of personally, I think, just making sure to love well. I think that's part of the serving well, to love well. And, anytime people leave that they feel I try to my goal is not about me, it's about the others, right? And
Yeah,
so trying
yeah.
to make sure, like, what is it that, and how can I help? How can I help?
Mhm.
So I think both in personal and professional, I try to, I don't know, just let people know that you are loved and you are cared for and you are seen.
Yeah, yeah. So, thinking about things that you do when you're not working, I know you're very involved in your faith community. What are some things that you do there to serve others?
Oh, I do it all, and not because I know how to do it all, but in the role of a pastor's wife, you have to be flexible to serve where the need is. And so I have done from cleaning to children's ministry, to preaching, teaching, leading prayer meetings, leading ladies events. But right now I'm actually in the media, which is a very behind the scenes kind of, and I am a-okay with that. But I'm realizing, it's a different working while under pressure. And
Right.
so if, like, the slides aren't working, I love technology, but when it works, you do love it. So, yeah, it's a learning curve. That's one of the things that I love. I love learning, and so it's exciting, but at the same time, it's very vulnerable because people see when you mess up.
Yeah,
And so
yeah.
I'm thankful for a community that offers grace.
Yes. Yeah, my dad was a sound guy in church for many, many years, and I remember him saying, like, the best sound guy, you never even know that they're there."
Yes, yes, because you do know when they're not doing well. Everyone turns around and they're like, "Hey, what's going on?"
Yes. Yes.
No, but
Um,
yeah, so right now I'm enjoying that. Even that has evolved. Back in the day, it was like a PowerPoint, where now there's these programs of ProPresenter. And that's another thing I love about real estate is that you really have to stay cutting edge in terms of not necessarily the bells and whistles, but we're not doing paper contracts. We're using tools like Loop. Back in the day, it was PowerPoint. Nowadays, it's ProPresenter. What used to be just the sound booth now has become the sound booth, the video, and the computer work. So, yeah, the evolving of the industry and the evolving of different roles.
yeah, yeah, and I'd love to for you to talk a little bit more about, some of the technology that you have learned over the last couple of years and what you're really, leaning in on because, I'm a firm believer as well that, you know, you don't need to be like always looking to be on the cutting edge and the first one to adapt something, but you can't be behind the curve either.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that?
No, absolutely. Even in terms of this podcast, I'll be honest. When you asked me, I was a little bit nervous because I am more of the behind the scenes kind of person. And so a stretching area for me has been even in Facebook, like marketing, promoting, because I'm like, God, once again, I don't want to make it about me. I want to make it tell the story of the client. But I think it's all perspective too, and using resources like Facebook. I think social media is a tool, but I think you have to be careful sometimes with social media that it doesn't consume or it doesn't tell like that is not where your worth is. And so,
Right,
how do you tell the client's story? How do you share resources? How do you use it as a tool, but also not consumed by it? As a realtor, I mean, I'm sure I have not, I've been in it in less than 5 years, but there was back in the day where I do feel like availability is number one. I need to be available nights and weekends. However, boundaries is also very important to me. And so boundaries of not texting before 8 in the morning or not texting after I say 8 at night, but really it's like 10 at night.
right,
Usually and what's funny is, like, in the winter and the summer, it changes too. In the summer, there's daylight hours, so you have a little bit more space, and then in the winter, there's a little bit more of a reprieve. So I think availability is also key in terms of texting, but there's nothing like a phone call. There's nothing
yeah,
like a face-to-face,
yeah,
and so while I love the convenience of texting and the convenience of dot loop, sometimes you just have to pick up the phone and have that conversation. It might be a good conversation, "Congratulations, your offer was accepted," or it might be a tough conversation, of like, we might have to drop the price because we're not getting the kind of, showings that we and feedback, is saying that we're too high. So,
right. Yeah, yeah, I think that, yeah, technology has made us, it has improved opportunities for communication. I think, like you're saying, there can be opportunities for over communicating, whether it's on social media or just being too available, with, yeah, because I have my phone set up where, I'm not going to get any texts or calls between 10 at night and 5 in the morning. And unless you're a family member, they'll get through or whatever, but and so I tell people, we have a 30-minute, response guarantee, uh, as long as it's not between 10 at night and 5 in the morning, because that's, just not gonna happen. But, but people understand, and I think that's the other thing too, that everybody's in the same world where, we, um, because we can doesn't mean that we should, if that makes
yeah,
sense.
absolutely. Well, and I think a good example too that you even shared right now is being clear and setting expectations. Like I know anytime I get a first time home buyer, I let them know I would love to sit down with you for 1 hour buyer meeting to explain the process because once we start looking at homes, once we put in the offer, the process can move really quickly. And so just clarity and expectations, what they can expect from me and where those boundaries are set has been important as well.
Yeah, yeah, and I think that's part of the education for people because, like you're saying, most of the time, people don't know what they don't know. And I mean, I tell people all the time, if I didn't do this for a living, I'm sure I would have all the questions that you're having right now, And so I'm not intimidated by the questions. In fact, I welcome them. And we try to be proactive as we can with transparency on everything. But at the same time, like you're saying, you know, here's the expectation. If you find a house that you really like, you need to be ready to go. It can't be a situation of, okay, now I'm going to get, my docs over to the lender, or now I'm going to let them check my credit, or now I'm going to whatever. Yeah. What are your thoughts on things like that?
And it's so important to be prepared. I think that's where it depends on where a person is at in the process. I think that's where some of those questions of how quickly are you looking to buy? And, everybody might say, or not, a person might say, like, I want to buy now. Sometimes people are in a lease. And so that might determine when they're looking to buy. And having people in the pipeline is important, understanding that some people are ready. And so right away, connecting them to a lender. Great. I'm excited that you're looking to buy. We really can't start looking at homes seriously and ready to put in offers until we have a pre approval. It makes your offer stronger. And so I want to make sure that you are best prepared to get an offer accepted. So anytime we do that handoff to the lender, that's important to make sure that we're communicating the why, and then that they're hearing the same message from the lender. If you go to whatever, you might get a pre-qualification, but the pre-qualification is not as strong as a pre-approval. And like, I'm not a lender, but I want to be there to back you up. This is why they're asking you for all the additional documents compared to maybe your bank or some other place. So yeah, I think a lot of it has to do with the questions that we're asking. Are they ready? Is it now? And if so, doing that handoff. And then you might come back to me and say, you know what, unfortunately, because of their credit score, because of their work history, their credit history, they're not ready. Okay, right now you're not ready, but here's the next step. So I think it's important to give people a next step, that even though you're not ready, maybe in 6 months, 3 months, 6 months, if you do X, Y, and Z, this can help to prepare you to be ready.
Yeah. Yeah. I love it because it's like, we're never saying no. We're just maybe saying that we're not ready right yet,
Yep.
not yet instead of no.
Yeah.
And, I think giving people the hope, and believing in them and saying like, hey, this is a very important step and in your life and in your, your financial legacy. And, we don't want to rush it. We don't want to put you in a situation that is not going to be a good experience for you. I tell people all the time, we do, we can even do like we do a dreams and goals call where we talk about, even if you think you're a year out, let's talk about what you want to do and what it's going to take to get there. And, um, and then, and share with them that, let's look at your ideal monthly payment because the banks are always going to, coming from a lender, the banks are always going to approve you for more of a loan than what you really should probably take out. And so, when we start with well, where would your, ideally in a perfect world, where would your payment be?
Yeah.
People have a pretty good idea of where their budget is, and, now sometimes they may need to realize that they can spend a little bit more than that. But, at the same time, I don't want to just approve somebody at over 50% of their pre-tax income simply because we can, when you're
Yeah.
really just setting people up to not enjoy life for a while.
Yes. Well, and that's where it really, I mean, they're working as they're looking to buy a home, they're really working on multiple processes at the same time. And so that's why the partner lenders are so important because, I may look at a house and yes, you have the pre-approval. I call it the big number and then the monthly number. So yeah, the big number, okay, but the monthly number, does that feel? But what all does that monthly number include? Is it the principal? Is it the PMI? Is it the insurance? Is it the taxes? And then based on that, the houses that we're looking at, the taxes can I don't want to say make it or break it, but it feels like that. Like if one home, even though it has a homestead credit, but the taxes are a lot higher, that might break that monthly number. And so that partnership is so critical.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And like you're saying that um, yeah, those, the taxes, is there an HOA? And then there's other things that are not included in that payment, like, utilities and, if you're paying, electric and gas and water and sewer and whatever, those are monthly expenses that are not really taken into account per se with the monthly mortgage payment, but they're there because, you're obviously going to have to, have gas and electricity and, be, having been without power for a little bit here recently, it's like you realize how important that actually is.
I know. Yeah, these storms.
Yes. So what are some lessons that maybe you've learned as a pastor's wife that have helped you in real estate?
Um, I mean, as people, there's seasons in life, and um, they're very parallel. They're very parallel in terms of walking alongside people through life decisions. As I mentioned, the trust that people place in you, the hope that you give people in Spanish, "Si se puede," yes, you can, is my little slogan because so many times, while the younger generation, 20s, some are buying homes. I've worked with 40-year-olds that were like, "We've been renting our whole life. We didn't think it was possible." And just because of a Homes for Heroes presentation, we started the conversation and they were able to buy their first home. So I think bringing hope to people, walking alongside people, educating people, but then at the end of the day, they have the power of choice. Like I know that sounds silly, but it's like you can't make anyone buy a house, you can't make anyone accept an offer, and so you can do what you can do, and then you have to do what you can do, and then you have to leave the rest in either God's hands and or their hands.
Right. Right. Yeah. That's another important caveat, right? I mean, like they have to want it for themselves more than we want it for them. And that's really, in anything, whether it is spiritually, financially, real estate wise, parenting wise, it's like, as bad as we can want this for you, you have to want it for you more than what we do. And that's just the nature of how things work. Um, yeah, yeah, I love
And try
that,
to
and
figure out if they don't want it, is it, because they don't believe they can? Like, what holds people back? Like, sometimes it is an education issue. Sometimes it is, "Okay, we need to work 6 months." And so there's different factors, and I think, yeah, being patient in the process, that if we're not ready now, it doesn't mean no, but it means not now.
yeah, I love it, I love it. Well, very cool. Well, I really appreciated the opportunity to sit down with you here today, and it's been very valuable and, very, very informative. I've really gotten a chance to get to know you more, so I really appreciate that.
Well, thank you again, Dennis. Thank you for what you're doing. Thank you for your contribution. And, when we worked with the couple that we worked with, I know these video calls were very meaningful to them because it's important to put a face and a name together, and then not just to look at the process, but to look at the how it affects their life. They were a young family kind of taking that step. They went from renting to buying their first home. And so yeah, thank you for walking alongside them in that journey.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I remembered one question I wanted to talk to you about. Obviously, being in real estate and all of that, you know that home ownership is important. But for you, what is the most important thing about someone going from renting to buying a house?
Oh, it's stability. A house is more than just a house, it becomes your home. And it represents a season of life sometimes. As I mentioned, we just did a closing on a divorce situation, and it's very emotional. And she said it's more than just selling this house. It was the loss of a dream, the loss of a hope of what it could have been. And so, vice versa for first time home buyers, it's the reality, the dream became a reality, but it also provides that stability, that place you can call home.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. Well, thank you again for joining me here today. It's been very, very fun. So I
Thank you,
appreciate it.
Dennis. Take care and blessings to you.
All right, you as well.